The billionaire wasn't supposed to be home that early. His private jet landed 2 hours ahead of schedule, and by the time his driver pulled into the mansion gates, the house was silent, except for faint laughter echoing from the study. Curious, he stepped closer. Inside, his 8-year-old son sat cross-legged on the floor, listening intently as the black maid, Angela, whispered, "And that's why your skin is nothing to be ashamed of, sweetheart." The billionaire froze. His son, and that conversation, what Angela said next, would shatter everything he thought he knew about his own family. Ethan Calloway wasn't just any man, he was the Ethan Calloway. A self-made billionaire, owner of Calloway Tech, and the kind of father magazines loved to photograph with his perfect blonde-haired son, Liam. On the surface, everything about his life screamed control, his spotless mansion, his precision-timed mornings, even the way his coffee was brewed at exactly 6:45 a.m. every day. But beneath that order was loneliness. His wife had passed 3 years ago, and since then his world revolved around business meetings and Liam's private tutors. That's where Angela came in, a warm-hearted woman in her 40s who had worked for the Calloways since before Liam could walk. She wasn't just the maid. She was the heartbeat of that cold house. "Angela," Ethan had told her once, tightening his tie before another board meeting, "I trust you with my son's routine. Just keep things as they are." She had smiled softly. "Yes, sir. I'll take good care of him." And she did. Every morning, she packed his lunch, ironed his uniforms, and waited at the gate when the school van came. Liam adored her. In his drawings, she wasn't Angela the maid. She was Miss Angie, the lady who makes the world feel safe. But lately, things had started to shift. Liam had been asking strange questions at dinner, questions Ethan didn't quite understand. "Dad," Liam had said one night, frowning, "why do people care about skin color?" Ethan had brushed it off, half smiling. "Just things you'll understand when you're older, buddy." He didn't know it then, but that innocent question was only the beginning. Something was happening in his own home. Something that would soon force him to face truths he'd spent his whole life avoiding. That night replayed in Ethan's head over and over. The sound of Angela's gentle voice, her words about pride and skin color, it had struck something deep in him. But he didn't say a word, not then. The next morning during breakfast, Liam wouldn't stop talking about what he'd learned. "Dad," he said between spoonfuls of cereal, "Miss Angie says some people get treated badly just because they look different. That's not fair, right?" Ethan hesitated. "Well, the world can be unfair sometimes, son." Liam frowned. "But she said it doesn't have to be." Those words lingered long after Liam left for school. Ethan felt uncomfortable, not angry, but uneasy. He didn't like talking about those topics. His boardroom, his friends, his gated neighborhood, all lived in a kind of polite silence about race. It wasn't hate, he told himself, it was just not talking about it. Still, curiosity nagged him. That evening he checked the home cameras. He told himself it was for safety, but really he wanted to see what else Angela was teaching. The footage shocked him. There was Angela sitting on the floor with Liam, holding a book titled "The Skin You Live In." Liam was smiling, tracing his little hand against Angela's darker one. "See," she said softly. "Different colors, same warmth, same heart." Ethan's jaw tightened. This isn't part of her job, he thought. The next day, he came home early, unannounced again. As he entered quietly, he heard voices from the living room. Angela's tone was calm but firm. "Sometimes people will think they're better than others, Liam, even grown-ups. You can't let that make you smaller," Liam whispered. "Did that happen to you?" She smiled sadly. "Many times, sweetheart. But I learned your worth isn't up to them." Ethan stepped in, his voice low but sharp. "Angela, a word, please." Her face turned pale. "Of course, sir." In the hallway, his voice rose. "What exactly are you teaching my son?" She met his eyes steadily. "Truth, Mr. Calloway, the truth he'll face someday." He exhaled hard, pacing. "That's not your place. You're here to take care of him, not to fill his head with humanity." She interrupted gently. "Sir, your son asked me why people hate. What should I have said?" "Don't ask." "Because silence protects no one." Ethan clenched his fists. You don't understand how these things work. Her voice trembled, but she didn't back down. No, sir. I understand exactly how they work. I've lived it. You've only watched it. Her words hit him like a slap, because somewhere deep down he knew she was right. But pride, cold, quiet pride, won. I think it's best you take the week off, he said stiffly. Angela nodded slowly, blinking back tears. If that's what you think is best. As she walked out, Liam came running. Miss Angie, where are you going? I'll see you soon, baby, she whispered, hugging him tight. When the door closed, the house felt heavier. Liam's eyes were wet. Dad, did I do something wrong? Ethan swallowed. Nobody, just grown-up stuff. But that night, when Liam refused to eat, only saying, I miss Miss Angie, Ethan realized something had shifted. The mansion was quiet again, but this time it wasn't peaceful. It was guilt, and deep inside Ethan knew this wasn't over. He just didn't know that the next time he saw Angela, she wouldn't be the same woman who'd walked out that door 2 days later. Ethan's phone buzzed with a message from Liam's school. There's been an incident involving one of your household staff. His heart skipped. He rushed to the gates, where 2 security guards stood near a police car. And there, handcuffed, her uniform stained with dirt, was Angela. Sir, she was picking up your son without authorization, one officer said curtly. Neighbors called it in. Said she was acting suspicious. Ethan blinked. Suspicious? That's Angela. She's worked for me for years. But the officer's tone didn't soften. Sir, we have procedures. Liam stood nearby, tears streaking down his cheeks. She just came to give me my lunch, Dad. I forgot it. Angela's eyes met Ethan's, pleading, humiliated. Mr. Calloway, I told them. You can confirm who I am. For a moment, Ethan froze. His mind screamed to say something, to stop the humiliation unfolding before his son's eyes. But years of silent conditioning, of not getting involved, held him back for one fatal second too long. The officer tightened his grip. Ma'am, get in the car, Liam cried out. Dad, do something. That shattered him. Ethan stepped forward, voice breaking. Let her go. She's my employee. You have no right. The officer paused, then exchanged a look with his partner before uncuffing her, muttering something about misunderstanding. But the damage was done. Angela stood trembling, wiping tears she didn't want anyone to see. Miss Angie, Liam whispered, hugging her tightly. I'm sorry they were mean, she smiled weakly. It's not your fault, sweetheart. Then she looked up at Ethan. No anger, no hatred, just quiet disappointment. Now you've seen it, sir, she said softly. You felt it. What will you do with that? Her words hit harder than any headline or protest ever could. As the police drove away and the whispers of onlookers faded, Ethan stood in silence, his power, his privilege suddenly feeling like chains. Because, for the first time in his life, he realized that silence wasn't safety. It was complicity, and he couldn't stay silent anymore. The next morning, Ethan didn't go to work. For the first time in years, he sat across from Angela in the kitchen. Not as her employer, but as a man who'd finally seen what she lived through every day. The silence between them was heavy, but not empty. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have spoken sooner. I just didn't know. Angela looked at him, her tired eyes soft but steady. You didn't want to know, sir. That's what most people do. They look away until it touches their world. Her words pierced him deeper than any accusation could. He nodded slowly. You're right. And I can't change what happened, but I can make sure it doesn't happen again. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began to use his voice differently. He spoke out at company meetings about discrimination, funded scholarships for underrepresented kids, and made sure his own employees, every single one, were treated with respect, not just politeness. But the real change was closer to home. One evening, Liam came home with a drawing. Angela and him holding hands under the words different colors, same heart. Ethan looked at it and smiled. That's beautiful, son. Liam grinned. Miss Angie said love doesn't have a color, Dad. And I think she's right. Angela, standing in the doorway, smiled through quiet tears. In that moment, Ethan realized something profound. Real change doesn't start in boardrooms or speeches. It starts in homes. It starts when one person decides to see what they used to ignore. He looked at his son and said softly, "Keep learning from her, Liam. She's teaching us both." Because the truth is, racism doesn't just live in violence. It lives in silence. And the only way to end it is to break that silence. So the question isn't if you've seen it, it's whether you've been brave enough to speak when it was right in front of you. If this story moved you, don't just scroll, share it, talk about it. Because change begins with the conversations we choose not to avoid.